What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Chris Corvin, and welcome to another episode of Dripping Creativity Podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of diving into the world of horror and filmmaking with the incredibly talented Tara Garwood. We're just going to run right into it. Tara, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am Tara Garwood. I am an award-winning filmmaker, screenwriter, and actor. I also do voiceover and the owner of Tarakata Films. And I currently have my third short film on the festival circuit right now. We've been accepted into 13 festivals and I think gotten 14 awards.
Hell yeah.
So far. So we've been doing pretty good. And what else? Oh, I just won a competition for a mentorship with the guys who wrote The Conjuring, Chad and Carrie Hayes. So I just started that year-long mentorship with them to write my first feature film, which is a horror comedy.
Hell yeah. That's good.
So I write all horror. And I'm focused on like telling women's stories through horrors. That's my main, like, my jam.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's freaking the entire thing. Like, we met, I think it was originally on Threads and then chatted in the cafe.
Yes.
And then I wanted to bring you in for the documentary. And we're like, hell yeah, that's going to be amazing.
Yes,
and then it's like,
I'm so excited for
wait, this thing just came up that I might get. I probably won't, but I might get it. And then you got it. And it's like, holy shit, this is amazing.
And I think, I think I should still probably be able to do the documentary because the timing should be fine.
We'll get it all sorted. That I'm not even worried about.
But yeah, because I really do want to do that.
Yes.
I really want to DP that. I think that'll be a really good project.
It's gonna be fun. But
yeah,
we're not here about that. We're here about you. So we talk about you. So all right, then let's take a step all the way back there. What got you into screenwriting and filmmaking? Like, what brought on the passion?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a convoluted journey there,
as we all do,
where I started performing on stage when I was 5 with a little group called Catherine Meisel's Modeling Muppets. That was like, we performed at old folks' homes and like did like a yearly bunny benefit for like Children's Hospital.
Nice.
And stuff like that. And then I started doing professional theater and some on-camera work when I was about 12. And so all I wanted to do was act for like my whole childhood. I just wanted to be an actor. And so I went and I majored in musical theater in college at a tiny little school called Jacksonville University down in Florida, where there were, at any given time while I was there, no more than 5 music theater majors.
Oh, Jesus.
And about 20-ish theater majors all told.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, that was majors and minors. So it was really small.
So small.
But so it was so tiny. I mean, the whole school was like probably smaller than my high school. It was like 1,500 people. Really tiny school. So I went there, I did that. I met my husband my senior year there. I like to say, no offense, Jacksonville, but I took the only thing worth having there.
Own that shit, man. Own it.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I kind of took the only thing that was worth having from Jacksonville. So no point in really going there anymore, guys. Sorry. I took him with me. So yeah, I met my husband there. And then I actually did some acting, professional acting for a while, stuck in that after college, and then got into, with a couple friends, we started a horror theater. We were reviving Le Théâtre de Grand Guignol, which was the French theater of horror that started in the late 1800s, ran through about the 1960s. It's the Grand Guignol is featured in the vampire movie with Lestat. Interview with Vampire. Yeah, so there's that scene in the theater. That's Le Théâtre de Grand Guignol. That's like the Rue Morgue theater. Um, so yeah, so we were reviving that and doing this like very old. We were actually the first on the East Coast, second in the country, and third in the world that we knew of that was reviving that. I did that for about 3 years. And that taught me that I wanted to do more than act, that I wanted to go from like the very beginning all the way to the end of the project.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm kind of a techno geek and I wanted to play with toys.
I get it.
So
I get it.
so I went to the local community college. I took a video editing course and I took a radio production course because I didn't know which way I wanted to go. And I fell in love with video immediately. I enjoyed the radio, but I really fell in love with video editing. And so I kept taking video courses. I ended up working at the like community college TV station there as a student producer for like a year and a half. And then I got a job in the government doing video. And I've been doing that for about 16 years,
Ooh.
between video and social media. I'm now the comms and multimedia producer for NOAA's Heritage Program. So I
Mm-hmm.
get to like tell stories about history all the time, which is really cool.
That's a lot of fun.
Um, yeah. And then throughout that, I started doing some of my own filmmaking. And for about 10 years, I was like, I should make money off of this and make a business. And so I was like, I'm going to do marketing video. First, I was like, I'm going to do wedding videos. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm going to do marketing videos. And after several years of that and the pandemic hit, I had one of those pandemic revelations. I had an epiphany and was like, I don't like this enough to do all the BS business work that I have to do to make this a job.
Yeah.
I'm going back to actual filmmaking. And so I asked my friend Sarah Coco Smith, who's a Gothic horror author, if I could turn one of her short stories into a short film. And that is the film that's on the circuit right now, on the festival circuit.
Fantastic.
And so I just kind of like jumped back in like 2 years ago and was like, F it, I'm gonna do creative work. I'm sick of trying to like make money with this and I'm gonna do what I love.
As somebody that has also done the corporate side of things for way too fucking long, I understand. That's very much was my thing, where it's just like, you know what, it's sucking the creativity out
Yeah.
of me, having to give it to corporations and deal with this bullshit. It's like, I just want to create. I just want to make something really cool. So yeah, I
Yeah.
100% get that. And that's an awesome
Yeah.
path, man. That the entire timeline there is just, it's so good. Like, there's so many great learning
Just a little
experiences.
meandering,
Well, you know
but
what, but
like,
that's what we do as creatives. Like, overall, it's just, if it was a
yeah,
straight shot, it would be boring and you wouldn't want to do it because there was
yeah,
nothing pushing you through. Whereas now you're looking at all the weaves
no,
and the curves and twists, and you're like, you know what, I learned a
I
lot.
get bored too easily.
Yes.
I need to learn new things. I need to branch out. I need to like try things all the time.
100%. Lately I've been dabbling into romance, which is really fucking weird for me because I'm a horror person. So it's just
Yeah.
like, I don't get that shit, man. But so side tangent here.
Yeah.
I've been noticing there is such a similarity between romance and horror. It's almost identical in the ways you're pulling emotions out of people and the
Okay.
result
I
of what
can
you're
see
trying
that,
to
I think.
get. So whereas romance, you're building the emotional impact and connection between two characters for the
Yeah.
result of them, falling in love and having their happily ever after. Whereas in horror, in general, we want to foster those connections and that emotional growth to destroy and tear down them at the end and make people very sad. There's still tears in both
Mhm.
sides. Some are good, some are bad. And I'm just,
Well, and I think in both you're building tension, right? And
yes,
then releasing it and then building it and then releasing it. It's just in different,
exactly.
completely different milieus, right?
And yeah, no, like, cause I've been going through this there. I wrote a short story with Sarah in 24 hours, and I'm like going through it with her, and she's taking care of the romance. And I'm like, that's how I would set up the horror side of things,
Mhm,
but you're doing
mhm.
it. Wow. They're so interconnected. So yeah, I'm really focusing on, romantic horror. I think really needs to become more of a thing. I want to see that in films. Yeah. So
Okay,
that's my
so
side tangent.
my next my like one that I want to do. Okay, I have two things that I want to do. So I'm doing my comedy horror now. I want to do a musical horror.
Oh,
Like
yes.
not like
Little Shop of Horrors.
more like Little Shop Horrors.
Yeah.
Less like what's it? The organ one, the organ
Uh,
selling.
Phantom,
Um
Phantom of the Opera.
yeah, but more like yeah, I want to do a musical horror like
Oh,
movie.
Repo.
Yeah, less like Repo. Yeah,
Yeah.
less like Repo, more like Little Shop or something like that. And I also want to do, this is like, I would have to get a horror bent to it because I don't know. Everything I write, like, I try to write things that are horror and they always like go down at least a horror-esque path. Um, a fantasy where instead of it being like a teenager or a young adult that gets sucked in to a fantasy world, it's like a 45-year-old divorcee with no one
Mhm.
to miss her. Like,
I
maybe she's like a
100%.
CPA and she becomes the vizier to some like war-torn country or
Well,
something. Like,
and honestly, like especially with how the current generation is, our generation,
mhm.
we grew up being those teenagers in the stories. Like that's all the
Yeah.
way through. That's what, and then suddenly it's like, okay, well now they're like, young adults and all of that. Well, guess what? Those young adults who were always the heroes are now really old people that need to be fucking heroes. Okay, so I don't give a shit. Fuck the kids. I'm putting myself in that shit.
Right.
Right.
I need to be like doing something other than laundry all the time.
You
Like,
know what? And literally, it makes more sense to be that age because if you're looking at the Lord of the Rings, all these other like they
mhm.
are generally in the 35 to 50-year-old range. All the
Yes.
supporting
Yeah.
characters, everyone that's involved, it's always the young kid coming in that's the chosen one. Well, why? That doesn't they don't have the life experience yet to make these fucking calls, man. You need somebody
Yep.
that knows
Yep.
this shit.
And why do they all have to be the chosen one?
Exactly. That's Bob.
Like,
He
why
showed
is it
up
always
one day.
the farmer's son? Why can't it be like I'm just a dude here or a lady
Yeah.
here who doesn't have any powers and I got to get through this shit. Like,
So in there's a D&D character that I really want to build for a game
okay.
sometime where it's an old guy, about 45-ish, who hates everything that happens. And he's always the first one to go, this is the stupidest idea you've come up with. We're just going to we're just going to go in. Like, it's right there. We're just gonna, like, he doesn't want to do anything. But you find out that his son who died really wanted to be a hero. So he's doing all of these things for his son's name, right?
Aww.
Exactly. Like it's like so tragic, but at the same time, this guy's an asshole. And
Okay. So I can tell that you're like me and have like serious backstories because
oh, dude, yeah, no.
I have like eons of backstory. I had a character that was a young noblewoman traveling as a man, which my whole party had to roll perception when they first met me. Every single one of them knew I wasn't a man,
That's good.
but
I
they
like that.
all
I like that.
pretended like they thought I was.
You know what? That's fantastic. I like that.
Um,
I
so like,
really like that.
but I had this whole backstory of that I had a younger brother who was suffering from some sort of like developmental um, condition, and that I was convinced that I could use magic to fix it. And so
Mm,
that was the whole reason I was adventuring, was because I was going to save my brother.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, so I had like the whole thing. And
But
yeah, people always kind of give me crap because I make very, very long, drawn out backstories.
anyways, all right, we're totally sidetracked again.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is what I love. I love this.
D&D will make us
Oh,
sidetrack.
everything, especially horror D.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell you this shit now. So pre-COVID, my son wanted to run a campaign with his friends, so I DM'd for them. We did it for a couple months and all that, and then eventually kind of fell out. Um, but I like it was a pure homebrew, built the entire world as I do. And then last year I'm like, I want to bring that world back, but we're going to change it. So now their party failed. What my son and his friends were supposed to do, they failed. So the bad guys won. And the entire world is now destroyed and run by evil. So the good guys are now like in
Right.
underground and shit. The world is all disjointed and displaced from what it was. It's very post-apocalyptic fantasy horror now. And it's just like, oh, I've been building it just off to the side. It's so good.
Have you read, I swear I just recommended this to someone. Have you read the Black Company series of books?
No.
You would love it. It's like, it's like, it's older, but it's very like dark, gritty fantasy, like Game of Thrones, but like actually even darker and more realistic. Um,
Interesting.
it's really good. It's really, really good.
Okay. So
Okay.
side tangent done. Bringing it back. Honestly, every single one of these interviews has been like this, where it's just random shit for most of it. All right. So the two things that I really wanted to focus on here is the short film, The Strangle of Ivy.
Hmm. Hmm. Strangle of
What
Ivy, yep.
what did you accomplish what you wanted to with it, and what made you really want to focus on that one over everything
Ooh.
else?
So I'll start backwards. I think the thing that made me want to make this story into a film um, was the relationship between the mother and daughter in the film, and the real focus on family, like difficult family relationships. The second short film I made 10 years ago or so, when I was first starting out, before I thought I was going to do marketing videos, um, was was about two sisters and their mother, and the father was gone. And so I have a thing, I guess I have a need to explore families, and particularly family secrets and how they affect the family like unit and the relationships between the members of the family. It's just something that calls to me. So when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, this is speaking to me. And it's also, an adult woman and her older mother who, seems to be sort of maybe falling into like a little bit of Alzheimer's or something because of the way she's behaving. And that's honestly like a fear that I have as my parents are getting older and my
Mm,
grandmother had Alzheimer's and dementia, and like that scares me. So
yeah.
makes for good horror for
Well,
me. And then I think I mostly did what I set out to. I definitely have things where I look at it and I'm like, I wish I had
mm,
fixed that little thing, um, or there's a scene that we had to cut where I'm like, man, I wish we had shot that scene differently and I could have left it in,
definitely.
and we cut it down from originally our fine cut was 17 minutes. And then we realized that some festivals consider under 15 minutes to be a short film. We
Yeah.
didn't want to be cut out from those festivals. So we
Yeah.
got it down to literally like 14:58 and like 20-30 frames, just to make sure we were a second under. And so there were things that like shortened, that tightened, that cut, that I wish I could have let breathe a little more.
Mhm.
Um, but overall, I think with the money we had to do it, I think we did a really fine job with it, and I'm pretty proud of it.
That's awesome. So, piggybacking off of that, which is something I'm always really curious about, given the opportunity and the budget to redo it as a feature length,
Ooh.
would you do that, or would you just leave it as it is because the story's done?
Uh, you know, I think that to make this a feature length, you would have to craft a lot more story around it, um, and possibly even add one or two characters. I think this is it's a very like tight little story that really is made to be a short. But I think you could do it. I just think you would have to really like massage it a lot and like
Yeah.
add a lot of like other things to it and like B lines and stuff like that.
So then, I suppose a double piggyback off of that one would be then talking with the original author there, and then asking the same thing. Like, could you, given the chance to redo this, were there things you were missing that you ended up cutting out that you would put back in? Like maybe that's actually what it
Yeah.
is there's so much more that they wanted to add in but didn't for the sake of the story, right?
So it's funny because we actually changed a few things in the film, just for the format, to make it feel like a film. But one of the things we changed was the whole ending. It ends
Really?
completely differently in the film than it does in the book. And Sarah actually was like, I think we may have gotten to a cooler ending. Like she's like, hold on, I think I like this ending better.
It's
So it went back and forth, and like we went through some dud ideas for endings, but she hit on that, and she was like, I think I actually like this one better.
it's difficult when you're doing stuff like that. Like I know even for me, with like the ARG and stuff that I was running is I would
Mm-hmm.
write out everything as I would see it. And then as
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it, it was like, oh no, this is going to be cooler. And then this will be cooler. And I just, it ends up
Yeah.
becoming a free flow project just because it's easier that way and it's more fun and I like it better. But then going back to the original idea later, it's like, I kind of really like that though.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
as creatives, we're never going to be satisfied. And I think if we ever are, we should
Mm-hmm.
probably call it quits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just,
I think there's always something to improve, and there's always something more to learn, and you never you never I can't remember where I heard this, but basically you never finish a film, you just abandon it. Like you basically hit a point where you're like,
that's,
I can't do any more with you. Like this is the best I'm gonna get it right now. And then maybe a year later you're like, oh man, I could have done this. But like at the time you do the best you can, and there comes a point where you're like, I can't make this any better than it is. Even though I can see how it could be better,
yeah.
I can't make it better. It's part of the frustration of being a creative,
Oh,
I think.
totally. And I mean, there's that quote. I honestly can't think of who said it right now because it's off the top of my head, and I'm horrible with names. But it's like once you put something out there, it's no longer yours.
Mm-hmm,
It's the
mm-hmm.
world's, right? And I very much believe that because when I create something, if I hit publish and I put it out there, it's done in my brain. I can't
Yeah.
look back on it. I refuse to. Like I'll reread it and I'll love it and I'll remember all that, but I can't dwell on what I could have done. I can't because I will just get stuck in a loop and it's no longer mine. It's out there.
Well, and I think film is no longer yours even before it's finished because you have so many other creatives working with you.
That.
It's like you may have written the screenplay all by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't for this, I wrote it with Sarah, but you may have written the screenplay all by yourself or whatever. But as soon as you start the production, it's not yours. I mean, it's yours, but it's not only yours anymore. And that's part of what I love about it is hearing other people's ideas and going, oh God, that makes it so much better. I didn't even think of that. Or like, okay, that's not quite it, but what if we did this instead? Or like that feeding off of each other's creative energy. I kind of hate when people talk about auteurs in film
Yes.
because I get it, like yes, like Kubrick, whatever, but he didn't do everything 100% himself, right? He had brilliant actors. He had a brilliant set designer, a brilliant production designer, a brilliant costume designer. He had these people, and they weren't just like little automatons that did exactly what he told them. They came to him with their ideas.
Yep.
Like so he was not the sole like brain behind this, and I think that's what people think of when they say auteur.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
that's not it.
100%.
you
And
know?
I don't, for me, and again, every filmmaker is different. There are those that are very my way. This is
Yeah.
exactly how it is. Even Nolan, right? Like he's very much a, if it's on, like this is what it is, and
Yeah.
there's a reason why it's there. Totally get that. Totally get that. I can't do that. I can't,
No.
because the second somebody comes up to me and says, "What if we try this?" I want to try it. Even if it's
Yes. Yeah.
horrible, even if it sucks, I don't care. I want to try it because you know what? If it happens to make this project better, then it is worth it 100%. So I 100% agree with you that
I'm the same. I'm 100% the same. I'm
just
like, I
bring it.
want to feed off of everybody's energy and like learn things as I go. And oh,
You know what that's
yes,
from? Improv lessons.
maybe yes, and
Exactly. We know what it's like to have an idea of starting a scene, and then somebody comes
hmm
at you with something that blows you away that you weren't expecting, and you're like,
hmm
fuck yeah, let's run with this shit.
yes,
and
yes,
and so we take that mentality and we put that into everything else, because that's exactly what it is. Like, I want you to yes and me. If I throw you an idea and you go, okay, what if, like, that's what has been my favorite game since I was a kid, was playing what if. And it was,
yeah,
what if we're Power Rangers? Okay, well, what if the Red Ranger did this, or what if the Yellow Ranger did that?
right,
Like,
right.
and it was just building these immaculate stories and just these grand things just in our mind based off of what if. Okay, yeah, let's do that. And like, I just, that's where my creative juice flows best, is
Yes,
just from
yes.
this need
I
to
think you're
create.
right. I think it's very akin to the improv, like
Yeah.
feeling of like we're building on each
I
other.
would I would very much like to talk to directors and screenwriters and all that who aren't like that, to see like their history, to figure out why they're like that.
Yeah.
Like I know for me with my father, he was very much the auteur type of what I say is what happens, and I'm not. So it's not a genetic thing, it's a trained
Yeah.
learned thing,
Yeah.
and it would be interesting to figure out where that comes from.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like,
Right.
I'd
Because,
love to see these people's Myers-Briggs.
well, yeah, no, it's like between that and just, their upbringing and their schooling. Like, did they have someone in the
Mhm.
past try to help them and it just went really, really badly? So they're like, no, from this point on, it's not going to
Yeah.
happen. Like, there's so many possible reasons for a person to like what they like.
Flows off that
Well,
way to
yeah,
be that
but I mean, it
sort
works
of,
for some
yeah.
people, right? Like it
Yeah.
works really well. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to kind of just do a whole series on directors and screenwriters and all that shit.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put that one in the bank for later.
We'll
We'll talk, man. We'll talk.
talk.
Okay, so we're already over time, but we're gonna keep going. This is
Okay.
good. This is good. This is
That's cool. I got time. I got time.
good. So the other main thing that I wanted to focus on is
Oh, there went my dog. Sorry about that.
all good, is the focusing on telling women's stories through horror and all that. Why is it important for you to focus on that within the horror over all the other possible choices that you can come up with?
Yeah, well, you may have noticed I'm a woman.
There is that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that starts it. But I think so. I think women's stories are not told enough in film, period. I'm trying to remember the stats now, but even just like last year, they found out that like
35%, I think,
very
is what
few
it
women
was.
directed, yeah,
Yeah.
like films,
Oh, directed, I
big
think, was like
films.
22%.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like
It was low.
it's low.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously bad. And I think horror for me is where I feel like I can make that change. One, because it's the genre that I love.
Mhm.
But two, I think it's a genre that, although weird, it's kind of a weird genre because it espouses a lot of very traditional conservative values as far as like, if you have sex, you're going to get killed by the slasher, right? And things like that. But it's also very progressive, um,
Yes.
in that it's was one of the early ones that like what Night of the Living Dead had
Mhm.
like the first black male protagonist who like was the hero.
Yeah.
Like that's like early for any film.
Well,
for any type of film. And then,
even
stuff like that.
even the concept of the final girl, like that's a strong female lead that's always
Yeah,
there.
and
But
acting, it can go either way, right?
definitely, and but at the same time, like for me, the dichotomy of it is the fact that yeah, they are strong female leads, but they're not viewed that way, right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense from a storytelling standpoint. Like the screenwriter goes in going, this is the strong female lead, like this is it.
Right.
And then the audience goes, well, yeah, but she's getting chased all the time and trying to get killed. It's like, well, yeah, but she's surviving. Like why is she
Right.
less than just because she
But she
survived?
also, traditionally at least, she also has to be the one who doesn't sleep with anybody. She has to be the one who remains sort of virginal and a good girl in all ways, and meek.
Yeah.
She has to be meek and learn to find her power, but not too much power, right? So it's this weird dichotomy in horror.
It is. I hate it. I hate it so much.
And I hate it, but I also feel like it brings opportunity.
Definitely.
To tell these women's stories that are more true to what women really are like. A lot of us, I mean, I'm sure there are women who are like Laurie Strode, but I'm not her. So like my main character in the feature I'm writing is a freshman in college. She's a journalism major and she's flawed. She thinks that becoming a top reporter and winning the Pulitzer is far more important than having any friends. And she goes to like great lengths that are not always morally correct to get her story. So she's not just like, pardon my language, but like some not like bad language, but like some namby-pamby like oh, I'm a good girl.
Yes.
And the bad guy's after me. No, she's kind of a bitch. And like she needs to learn that friends are more important. And that's her arc. Like that's her journey. Is like, does she by the end learn that friends are more important than becoming like the successful career girl? So that's what I'm trying to like, and it's it's not like a hardcore women's story, but it's a story that women have too, and we don't get that one a lot.
Definitely. Well, it's very Scream 1 Gale Weathers, right?
Yes. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Man, she was not a nice person in that movie. I don't give a shit what anyone says, man. She really wasn't. Love her to death, and even the story arc she had through all of them, fantastic. One of the best. But she's
But women aren't always great. Like sometimes
exactly.
we are, sometimes we're not. Like we need that sort of breadth of the whole spectrum of who people can be in women's stories. And I think horror is a place where I can push that, where I can push that edge a little bit and play with it a little bit. And I love horror because of it puts people in such drastic situations that you really get to see who everybody is on the inside.
That right there.
That's why I love horror. And so I think to be able to do that and use it to tell stories about real women, then you get to really see inside in a way that you don't always in like a rom-com or something.
Yeah. 100%. I love that. I think that is fucking amazing. That's so good. I was talking a couple months ago to a writer friend of mine, and her and I were discussing female lead characters and all that, and how it's like the only ones that the general public seems to recognize right now are either the completely innocent, doe-eyed, need to be saved ones, or the ones that basically act like men. Because they're the hard badasses and fuck you, I don't want to think about it. And it's like, but that's like, okay, sure, a badass woman is amazing, but there's no way that could be all she is. Right?
We call it in my house man in a skirt.
Yes, exactly.
Which is how I've always described Xena.
Yep. Very much.
Go back, I know, but I'm old. Xena Warrior Princess was a man in a skirt.
Yep.
Like they literally even had a whole story arc about how she had a kid, left him behind because she's not good with kids.
Yeah. Well,
And it was like,
if
yeah.
you're a 90s 2000s action star, sure, that's, you know, that's all you are is one note. But like there's no reason why a strong female lead who survives, think Buffy, like from the original movie back in the day, right? Like
Yes.
just very much an actual fucking
Love the
person.
original movie. Wait,
Exactly.
Are we on video? Do you have video? Signed by Christy Swanson.
Oh, wow. That's fucking awesome. I dig that. I love that. That's awesome. But
she
yeah,
drew a little bad on it too.
naturally. But yeah, no, it's like that was such an amazing character, because you're taking somebody that has such a history and a personality and going, okay, now you are in this situation. What are you going to do? And it's not going to change you. You're going to grow, but you're not going to suddenly become a completely different person because of it.
Right.
And
she didn't suddenly like find mystical, magical, like badass powers.
Exactly. It wasn't suddenly picking up a stake and she's a completely different person. And, you know, it's like, no, it's character depth and development. And if you're doing that, I fucking love it so much. That is just, oh.
Yeah. And then another film that I love that not a lot of people have seen is called A Dark Song. And it's just a woman and a man in a house for most of the movie. But she hires him to summon an angel for her to ask something of it. And I won't say any more than that because it would give it away. But I tell people that it's actually probably the most humane horror film I've ever seen.
Excellent. Well, I just bookmarked it on my
dark and it's totally fucked up, but like the end, you're like, oh wow, like, and the two characters are so real and human, and oh, it's so good.
So good. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, that one is now on the want to watch for sure. We could definitely probably keep going for another like 2 hours at this shit.
Yeah.
But we should probably wrap this one up. So much like I did with the Snade, we might have to do a part 2 at some point to continue, because I think I only covered 2 out of the 8 questions. So,
well, and if we wait a few months, I can tell you how the mentorship is going.
It's
because it just started. So
it's a date. We
still
I don't know how
it's going yet. Stuff. I'm waiting for my first round of feedback.
Man. Oh. Okay, well, you know, just privately, you gotta let me know how that shit goes, because I'm 100% invested in this whole journey. So
I will. I'm so excited about it.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this part 1. We'll
thank you for having me. It was great.
And yeah, so have a great one. We'll talk to you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Tara, for joining us today. It was a fantastic conversation. We could talk movies all the damn time, and it would be amazing. And to everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a rating wherever you're listening to this podcast. Be sure to check out Tara's work and keep an eye out on the latest projects. I've been your host, Chris Corvin. You can find me everywhere at Chris of the Void. This has been the Dripping Creativity Podcast, part of the Creative Coffee Cafe community. Remember, stay creative, stay inspired, and until next time, see ya.